welcome to Rulebreaker. Today we're going to take a look at how to play as the Vuil'Raith Cabal from Prophecy of Kings expansion for Twilight Imperium 4th edition. So these guys are, I'm not going to lie guys, these are the most daunting faction to teach in the whole game so far for me. They're weird, they're different, they have stuff that we haven't seen before, they do different mechanisms that nobody else does, but they're also really cool, terrifying big dinosaur Godzilla dudes, and I reckon they're going to be awesome to play as. So let's dive right in and take a look at who they are and what they can do. So the main story with these guys is that they come from like a different plane of existence, and the Mahact come along, torn their home planet to shreds. That's this mess of a thing up here. I turned it into a gravity rift and I've pulled them into the known galaxy. And their response to that is, let's blow everything up and get as much recompense as they can. They're very aggressive, very violent, very unpredictable to play, and yeah, you'll see that very quickly when I start explaining what they can do. So let's take a look at their starting stuff, starting with the technology. They start with self-assembly routines, which is one of the new techs from the expansion. It's also not a base tech, it's got a prereq on it. It's one of the more slightly advanced technologies. And that reads, after one or more of your units use production, you may exhaust this card to place one mech from your reinforcements on a planet you control in that system. After one of your mechs is destroyed, gain a trade good. So very easy access to mechs. This is a common trend with the Vuil'Raith Cabal. They don't like paying for resources like troops and ships, and they can kind of get away with it because they like to capture things, and you'll see more about that soon. Alright, and as for their starting units, they've got a very aggressive start. They've got a dreadnought off the bat, they have a carrier, they've got a cruiser, they've got 3 fighters, and they've got 3 infantry, and they've got a space dock, and their space docks are different. You may have noticed that in the game you get these Vuil'Raith tokens. They're actually gravity rift tokens. You should also note that there is a set of 3 of these for the necrovirus. They're exactly the same, they're all gravity rifts, but these are for if the necrovirus takes copies the Vuil'Raith Cabal's space dock technology. The way that these work with the Vuil'Raith Cabal is that whenever you build a space dock, you need to put the space dock on top of the gravity rift, and the space dock acts just like a gravity rift from the normal game. So not only are they angry, they're also fast, because they can fly out of their home system with +1 movement. That's what a gravity rift does, it adds +1 to your ship's movement. However, it's important to note that the Vuil'Raith Cabal does not need to roll for their own gravity rifts with their dimensional tear space docks, only for standard gravity rifts. Roll a die, and on a roll between 1 and 3, that ship is destroyed. Again, making them very unpredictable. Alright, so this is what your system looks like. You've got Acheron here, which is a 4 resources 0 influence planet, nice and boosty. And it's got not a lot else going on in the system really. It's one planet. Again, the weird thing with them is this token that you put your space docks on. You've got 3 of those, and just looking at their setup, you've got fast reaching dreadnought right at the start, scary thought, and you've got the 1 carrier to move your stuff around, to start conquering space and being scary. Alright, let's take a look at their abilities on their ability sheet here. I love their quote, by the way. It says, "Your form is fragile and weak. Let me relieve you of your hardships." And that's by something called That Which Molds Flesh. Delightful. So their abilities, starting with the ominously titled Devourer. And that reads, capture your opponent's non-structure units that are destroyed during combat. What does that mean? Well, it's explained a little bit more in the next ability, Amalgamation, which reads, when you produce a unit, you may return 1 captured unit of that type to produce that unit without spending resources. Wow, so how does that work? That's something we haven't seen. Alright, a super quick example in the world's smallest galaxy. Let's say you are the Vuil'Raith Cabal and you activate a system with opponent ships in it. You fly in. If you have a fight, you don't even have to win the fight, you just need to destroy something and then you capture it. So let's say you're shooting away here and you destroy this carrier. You capture this unit and you put it onto your basically onto your playmat. Even if you get destroyed by this war zone here and lose, you can still keep this captured carrier. However, if you do manage to take out that war zone, you also capture that. Now they don't immediately go into play. They are essentially a full discount for that type of unit. Let's go back to the player mat and I'll show you what that looks like. Right, so let's say we've captured a carrier and a war zone for this example. As Amalgamation says, whenever you produce a unit, you may return one captured unit of that type to produce that unit without spending resources. So if you decide you want to build a carrier, instead of spending the 3 costs here, you can just get rid of this captured carrier. It's gone, and you're now building one of your own. Likewise with the war zone. If you capture a war zone and you want to build a war zone, you don't have to spend 12 resources to put it in. You do, however, have to have the war zone technology to do it. However, the Cabal have already got a mitigation for that fact as well. Rift Meld, their next ability, which reads, when you research a unit upgrade technology, you may return one captured unit of that type to ignore all of that technology's prerequisites. So if you have destroyed a war zone and you don't have the war zone unit upgrade, you can get rid of the war zone that you've captured and you can research the war zone straight away for free. So that would go in just like this. Now it's worth noting you don't get the war zone at the same time. You've just gotten this. You don't get the technology and also a new war zone. You'd have to capture another one and spend that to get a free one in the future, but you've got the unit technology there without having to do any of the prerequisites. It is also has to be done during the normal technology flow, so with the technology strategy card, either as the primary or the secondary, so you still have to follow all the normal technology rules. This one is mainly about ignoring all of these prerequisites, but it's still pretty good, especially if you can do it quickly. Okay, so for the Vuil'Raith Cabal, we're actually going to look at their units before we look at their racial technologies, because we're going to have to explain the dimensional tiers. We've already kind of gone over them a little bit in saying that they are space docks that have these gravity rifts on them, but they also have something else that's really interesting on them. They allow up to 6 fighters in the system that are not against ship capacity. Normally this is 3. Okay, so that's a big deal. That's a lot of dudes hanging around a space dock. It doesn't just have to be the one in your home system, of course. It can be any of them. And one of their racial technologies is space dimensional tier 2, and it's essentially the same thing except that it's now 12 fighters, which is a huge amount, and it also allows production 7 instead of production 5. So that's one of their racial techs, which is a unit upgrade. They don't have any other special units. So let's take a quick look at their flagship before we check their last racial tech. Alright, and onto their flagship, the Terror Within. Nice Lovecraftian style name there. The Terror Between. And that reads, capture all other non-structure units that are destroyed in this system, including your own. So, when the Terror Between is involved in a fight, you capture everything in the fight that gets destroyed, whether it's your opponent's stuff or your own stuff. And if you have a look here at the combat value on the flagship, you'll see that it's hitting on 5s and it's got 2 dice, so it's probably going to be doing quite a lot of damage here. It has sustained damage and bombardment of 5. Standard 8 cost, 1 move, 3 capacity. But if you're going to be getting this guy out, capturing a lot of units, you're essentially going to have so many discounts for building more units, as you go throughout the rest of the game. So in my opinion, this is one of the most exciting and terrifying flagships in the expansion, a force to be reckoned with. And quickly looking at their second racial technology, which is called Vortex. It reads action, so an action you can do instead of a tactical action or an action card. Exhaust this card to choose another player's non-structure unit in a system that is adjacent to one or more of your space docks. Capture one unit of that type from that player's reinforcements. So again, playing on with this capture thing they've got going on, but this one is absolutely crazy. You can just exhaust the card and then take somebody's unit away. You don't remove the one that you've chosen from the system. That stays there. It's not as simple as you destroy it. It's not gone. That person still has it, but you get a copy of it from their reinforcements. So again, this is a major deterrent more so than anything else. If I have a War Sun, again to use the crazy example, sitting adjacent to a Vuil'Raith Cabal system, I am essentially saying, hey, you can capture one of these for free. And this one is a low cost prereq technology, so it's pretty powerful. It's something that, as a Vuil'Raith Cabal player, if you're going to be doing capturing, which you should be because that's their main thing, you're going to want this one because it makes everything all the more scary. Alright, let's take a look at their promissory note, which is called Crucible. So you're going to bargain this off to another player, and then they're going to have this ability which reads, after you activate a system, your ships do not roll for gravity rifts during this movement. Apply an additional +1 to the move values of your ships that would move out of or through a gravity rift instead. Then return this card to the Vuil'Raith player. So yeah, it's like a guarantee that you won't blow up if you use gravity rifts. This is a once-off thing, so it's not an always-on ability. It's after you activate a system, ignore gravity rifts, then return the card to the Vuil'Raith player. A strangely bargainable thing, like it's something that I think you might want to give out to other people if you think they need it to attack someone's home base, for example, or if you want to give a leg up to somebody who's trailing in order to annoy the other players at the table. This is a pretty low cost to you. It does make you a little more vulnerable at home with your gravity rift system, but at the same time you're probably going to have loads of stuff to defend with anyway because you'll be capturing things for the whole game. So I think you can very quickly and easily bargain out Crucible if you really want to. Alright, let's take a look at what these guys have on their unit board for their leaders and mechs. So these terrifying guys with their crazy art, they have an agent called the Stillness of Stars, they have a commander called That Which Molds Flesh, lovely, and they have a hero called It Feeds on Carrion, lovely, and they have a mech called Reanimator, also lovely. So the agent, which you have at the start of the game, reads, after another player replenishes commodities, you may exhaust this card to convert their commodities to trade goods and capture one unit from their reinforcements that has a cost equal to or lower than their commodity value. So obviously this is more potent against the likes of Emirates of Hakan, who have a high commodity value. This is going to be one of those weird situations where people kind of want you to capture their units so that they can get the trade goods rather than do a trade. It's like an alternate trade in a way, but it's an exhaust. You can only do it once per turn, so if you are going to do that, you're not going to be able to do it to everybody. But capturing units, you want that because you're vulnerable when moving out of your gravity rifts. The commander, which you unlock once you have units in 3 gravity rifts, and remember, in order to do that, you're going to need to use a bunch of your tokens because you'll have one at the start. There may or may not be one in the game from normal universe setup, and you've got these 2 here to build as well. So once you've got the 3 gravity rifts and then you've got units in them, you flip over That Which Molds Flesh, and he has an ability that reads, when you produce fighter or infantry units, up to 2 of those units do not count against your production limit. So essentially it's kind of like a discount for production, but it only applies to fighters and infantry. Good thing about that is it's an always on ability, and it's not once per round or once per game kind of thing. So really cool. Basically every time you're producing stuff, throw in a couple of units of infantry or fighters if you can afford them, because you're just going to have more stuff on the board that way. And then to the hero, flip him over after you've scored 3 objectives, and then he becomes Dimensional Anchor, Event Horizon. With the action, each other player rolls a die for each of his non-fighter ships that are in or adjacent to a system that contains a dimensional tear. Remember, that's these guys, tokens that your space docks are on. On a 1 to 3, capture that unit. If this causes a player's ground forces or fighters to be removed, also capture those units, then purge this card. So you kind of thinking what I'm thinking here. You want to put these as centrally as you can. At some point in the game when you want to use this hero, purge this card, get rid of it, do it once per game action, and just roll a die for each of the things. See if you can wipe out as many as possible and capture them. That's absolutely terrifying. These guys are mad, absolutely crazy. And their last unit, Reanimator Mech, standard enough, cost of 2 and combat of 6, has sustained damage, and reads, when your infantry on this planet are destroyed, place them on your faction sheet, those units are captured. So your infantry are basically disposable, and you can bring out your infantry again for free. And you'll have this when you have the commander, most likely. So you'll be able to play them for free and not affect your production limit. So these guys just churn out the bodies to do as much damage as they possibly can. So that is the Vuil'Raith Cabal. Now, I think they have one of the best sets of leaders that mushes with their normal ability. This whole thing of capturing things and then being able to boost your production limit, and then this Event Horizon thing is mad as an endgame play. So yeah, they've got a lot going on. Super aggressive. I feel like they will be the kind of faction that immediately from the start of the game everyone's going to be keeping an eye on them. If they start gaining any traction, there's going to be alliances, multiplayer alliances rounding on you to slow you down if you even think about trying to take over the galaxy. And that's a very different way of playing this game, being the one versus many almost in some ways. So if you're going to be the Vuil'Raith Cabal, don't expect to have a lot of friends at the table, because you're going to be absolutely the menace, no matter who you're playing against. So that is the mighty terrifying Vuil'Raith Cabal. Hopefully you guys got something useful out of that video. If you've played as the Vuil'Raith Cabal, I'd love to hear your opinions on them. Any good stories, stick them in the comments. And until next time, this has been Rulebreaker. Thanks for watching.